The door opened, and Hannah Dane's life ended. Not literally. Not yet. But the moment she saw what was inside, the men in dark suits, the figure bound to a chair, the metal pipe raised mid-swing, she knew the version of herself that had knocked on this door was gone forever. The crack of metal against bone echoed through the marble foyer. Blood sprayed. The bound man groaned, his head lolling forward. Hannah gasped, stumbling backward, her hand instinctively flying to her swollen belly. 8 months pregnant. Alone. In a foreign country. And she'd just walked straight into hell. Delivery, she choked out, thrusting the package forward with shaking hands. I'm just here to drop this off. I didn't see anything. I swear. The man at the door didn't move. Didn't blink. He was tall, immaculate in a charcoal suit, his expression carved from stone. His dark eyes swept over her, her face, her belly, her trembling hands, and Hannah felt something cold settle in her chest. He was calculating. Measuring. Deciding whether she lived or died. You shouldn't have come here, he said quietly. His voice was controlled, almost gentle, but it carried the weight of a death sentence. Hannah's heart hammered. I didn't know. Please. I was just assigned this address. I'll go. I won't say anything. Inside. His voice cut through her panic like a blade. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But her body was slow, exhausted, 8 months heavy with a child she was barely managing to feed. The street behind her was empty. The rain had started, light, cold, April rain that smelled like cherry blossoms and danger. One step forward. Then another. The door closed behind her with a sound like a coffin sealing. The men in the foyer had stopped their work. All eyes were on her now. One of them stepped forward and took the package from her hands. Hannah watched in mounting horror as he opened it. Inside wasn't a gift. It was stacks of cash bound with black ribbon. And a platinum watch. Its face smeared with something dark and wet. Blood. Hannah's stomach dropped. What is this? She whispered. What did I just deliver? The man who'd opened the door, Kim Jin-ho, though she didn't know his name yet, studied her for a long moment. Then he gestured sharply to his men. Take her to the West Wing. Don't let her leave. Hannah's vision blurred. Her knees buckled. The last thing she saw before darkness claimed her was Jin-ho's face, expressionless and cold, watching her fall. Hannah woke to the sound of rain. It pattered against windows she couldn't see, soft and steady, the kind of spring rain that should have been comforting. But nothing about this was comforting. She was lying on a leather sofa in a room that smelled like expensive cigars and old violence. A man in a white coat, a doctor, she realized distantly, was checking her pulse. Her hand flew to her belly. The baby kicked. Relief flooded through her so intensely she nearly sobbed. She's stable, the doctor said quietly to someone behind him. But she needs rest. And she shouldn't be stressed. A low voice responded. That's not my concern right now. Jin-ho. Hannah's eyes snapped to him. He stood near the window, backlit by gray April light, his silhouette sharp and predatory. Even motionless, he radiated danger. The doctor packed his things and left. The door closed with a soft click. Jin-ho turned to face her. Who sent you? He asked. His voice was calm, controlled, but Hannah heard the steel beneath it. I don't know, Hannah said, her voice cracking. I swear I don't know. I got the job through an app. I needed the money. I didn't know what I was delivering. An app. Jin-ho's eyes narrowed. Which one? Hannah's mind scrambled. I don't remember. It was new. I just downloaded it yesterday. They said it was urgent. They said the pay was triple. Show me. Hannah fumbled for her phone, hands shaking. She unlocked it and scrolled through her apps. It was gone. Every message. Every notification. Every trace of the delivery company. It's not here, she whispered, staring at the screen in disbelief. It was here. I swear it was here. Jin-ho crossed the room in 3 strides and took the phone from her hands. He studied it for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he handed it back. Someone erased it, he said. Remotely. Hannah's blood went cold. What? You were set up. Jin-ho's voice was quiet, almost conversational, but the words hit like blows. Someone gave you that delivery knowing you'd take it. Knowing you'd come here. Knowing he stopped. His jaw tightened. You were bait. Bait? Hannah's voice rose in panic. For what? I don't even know you. I don't know anything about whatever this is. You don't need to. Jin-ho stepped back, his gaze never leaving hers. But someone knew you'd be desperate enough to ignore the warning signs. Someone knew you'd come. Hannah's hands clenched into fists. I wouldn't. The window exploded. Glass shattered inward in a spray of glittering shards. Hannah screamed, throwing her arms over her head. Jin-ho moved, fast, impossibly fast, grabbing her and yanking her to the floor behind the sofa. Stay down, he barked. Gunfire erupted. Bullets tore through the room, splintering wood, punching holes in the walls. Hannah pressed herself flat against the floor, hands over her belly, heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. Through the broken window, she could see figures moving in the courtyard below. Men with guns. A lot of them. Jin-ho was already on his feet, a compact pistol in his hand. He fired twice, clean, precise shots, and 2 of the attackers dropped. They came for you, he said grimly, not looking at her. Me? Hannah's voice was raw with terror. Why would they? Because you're leverage. Jin-ho moved to the side of the window, firing again. Because whoever set this up wants me distracted. Or dead. Or both. Another volley of bullets ripped through the room. Hannah flinched, curling tighter around her belly. The baby was moving, agitated, responding to her panic. Outside, the spring rain had turned heavy. Cherry blossoms torn from the trees swirled in the wind, mixing with smoke and chaos. It was beautiful and horrifying all at once. Jin-ho crouched beside her, reloading with practiced efficiency. Can you move? I think so. Then move. Now. He grabbed her arm and hauled her to her feet. Hannah's legs shook, but she forced herself forward. Jin-ho kept himself between her and the windows, his body a shield. They made it to the hallway. Jin-ho's men were already there, armed and moving with disciplined precision. One of them, a scarred enforcer with cold eyes, glanced at Hannah. Sir, we should. Get her to the safe room, Jin-ho ordered. No one touches her. The enforcer hesitated. But. Now. The man obeyed. He gestured for Hannah to follow, and she did, her breath coming in short, panicked gasps. Behind her, she heard Jin-ho barking orders, coordinating his men. The safe room was small, windowless, reinforced. The door closed with a heavy thunk that muffled the sounds of gunfire. Hannah sank to the floor, trembling. She could still hear it. Muffled but unmistakable. Gunfire. Shouting. The sound of someone, hitting the ground. Hannah pressed her hands over her ears, but it didn't help. She was trapped. In a foreign country. In the middle of a war she didn't understand. 8 months pregnant. Alone. No. Not alone. The baby kicked again, strong and insistent. Hannah took a shuddering breath and forced herself to focus. She was still alive. Her baby was still alive. That had to be enough. For now. The gunfire eventually stopped. Hannah didn't know how long she'd been in the safe room. It felt like hours, but it might have been minutes. Time had lost all meaning. When the door finally opened, it was Jinho. He was unharmed, not a scratch on him, but there was blood on his cuffs. Not his blood, Hannah realized. She didn't want to think about whose it was. "It's over," he said simply. Hannah stared at him. What was that? Who were those people? Enemies. Jinho stepped aside. "Come. You need to eat." "I need to leave," Hannah said, her voice shaking. "I need to go home. I need." "You can't." Jinho's tone was flat, final. "Not until I know who set this up. Not until I know you're safe." "Safe?" Hannah let out a bitter laugh. "I was safe until I came here." "No." Jinho's eyes locked onto hers. "You were never safe. You just didn't know it yet." Hannah didn't have the strength to argue. She followed him through the compound, a sprawling estate that was part fortress, part palace. Everything was expensive, immaculate, and cold. He led her to a dining room where food had been laid out. Simple but substantial. Rice, soup, grilled fish. Hannah's stomach growled despite everything. "Eat," Jinho said, sitting across from her. Hannah picked up her chopsticks with shaking hands. "Why are you doing this?" "Doing what?" "Protecting me. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything." Jinho was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You remind me of someone." Hannah looked up. "Who?" "Someone I couldn't save. 3 months ago. America." Hannah stood in her childhood bedroom, the one she hadn't lived in for years, staring at the packed suitcase on her bed. Her mother's voice drifted up from downstairs. "You're making a mistake, Hannah. Running away won't solve anything." "I'm not running away," Hannah called back, even though they both knew it was a lie. Her older sister appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "Mom's right. You can't just leave. Watch me." "What about the baby?" Her sister's voice was sharp. "You think Korea is going to be easier? You think?" "I think," Hannah interrupted, "that I'm tired of being the disappointment. I'm tired of being compared to you and Marcus. I'm tired of being told I'm not good enough." Her sister's expression softened slightly. "Hannah. I'm done." Hannah zipped the suitcase shut. "Maria's already there. She has a place. I'll figure it out." "And the father?" Hannah's jaw tightened. "There is no father." That was a lie too. There was a father. But when she told him she was pregnant, he'd looked at her like she'd just ruined his life. And maybe she had. He'd been gone within a week. So Hannah had made her choice. She'd leave. Start over. Build something new. She just hadn't expected it to be this hard. Seoul. 2 weeks ago. "You're sure about this?" Maria asked, watching Hannah scroll through delivery apps on her phone. "I need the money," Hannah said. She was 6 months pregnant then, just starting to show. The teaching gig fell through. "This is all I've got." Maria frowned. "I can lend you." "No." Hannah's voice was firm. "I'm not taking your money. I'll figure it out." "You're stubborn." "I'm surviving." Maria sighed. "Just be careful, okay? Seoul's safe, but, just be careful." Hannah had promised she would be. She'd lied about that too. Present. "My name is Kim Jinho," he said quietly, watching her eat. "I run an organization. You would call it a criminal enterprise. Hannah's chopsticks froze halfway to her mouth. The people who attacked us today, Jin-ho continued, are rivals. They want me dead. Or at least weakened. And I'm, what? Collateral damage. You're bait. Jin-ho's expression didn't change. Someone hired you to deliver that package knowing you'd come to my door. Knowing I'd see you. Knowing. He paused. Knowing what you are. What I am. Hannah set down her chopsticks. What the hell does that mean? Pregnant. Vulnerable. Innocent. Jin-ho's voice was flat. Someone calculated that I'd either kill you immediately, which would bring unwanted attention, or keep you alive. Either way, I'd be distracted. Hannah's hands clenched into fists. So this is all, what? Some kind of game? Yes. The bluntness of it stole her breath. Then let me go, Hannah said. If I'm just a distraction, let me leave. I can't. Why not? Jin-ho was silent for a long moment. Then he said, because they'll kill you. Later, after Hannah had been shown to a guest room, luxurious but clearly a prison, Jin-ho stood alone in his office. On his desk was a single photograph. Faded. Worn at the edges from years of handling. It showed a woman. Korean-American, middle-aged, with kind eyes and a tired smile. She wore a simple cleaning uniform. Miss Grace. Jin-ho picked up the photograph, his jaw tight. 20 years ago. The orphanage. Jin-ho, you need to eat. 10-year-old Jin-ho shook his head, staring at the bowl of rice Miss Grace had set in front of him. I'm not hungry. You're always hungry. Miss Grace sat down beside him, her voice gentle. What's wrong? Nothing. Jin-ho. He looked up at her. Why do you care? Miss Grace smiled. Because someone has to. She was the only one who did. The other staff at the orphanage were indifferent at best, cruel at worst. But Miss Grace, she saw him. She cared. She was the closest thing to a mother he'd ever had. 2 years later. The gang fight started outside the orphanage. Jin-ho never knew what it was about. Territory, probably. Or money. It didn't matter. What mattered was that when the bullets started flying, Miss Grace had grabbed him and shoved him behind a dumpster. Stay down, she'd whispered. Don't move. Don't make a sound. Jin-ho had obeyed. And then he'd watched, powerless, terrified, as a stray bullet found Miss Grace. She'd fallen without a sound. Jin-ho had crawled to her, his hands shaking. Miss Grace, please. Her eyes had found his. You're, okay. I'm okay. You're going to be okay. Good. Her voice was so quiet. That's, good. She died in his arms. Jin-ho had screamed. He'd begged. He'd promised anything, everything, if she'd just stay. But she was gone. And he'd been powerless to save her. Present. Jin-ho set the photograph down carefully. He'd built his empire from nothing. Clawed his way out of the orphanage, out of poverty, out of powerlessness. He'd promised himself he'd never be powerless again. And he'd promised Miss Grace's memory that he'd protect the people who couldn't protect themselves. He'd broken that promise more times than he could count. He was a criminal, after all. A killer. He had no illusions about what he was. But Hannah. Hannah was different. She was pregnant. Vulnerable. Innocent. She'd been used as a pawn in someone else's game. Just like Miss Grace had been caught in someone else's war. Jin-ho wouldn't let her die. He couldn't. Even if it cost him everything. Jin-ho pulled up his computer and began tracing the breach in his system. It didn't take long to find the digital fingerprints. Someone had hacked the delivery database. Created a fake company. Routed Hannah straight to his door. And he knew exactly who was behind it. Park Dong-wook. His oldest rival. His most dangerous enemy. Jin-ho's jaw tightened. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. 3 days passed. Hannah spent them in a strange limbo. She wasn't a prisoner, exactly. Jin-ho had made it clear she could move freely within the compound. But she also wasn't free to leave. The guest room she'd been given was more luxurious than anywhere she'd ever lived. The food was better than anything she could afford. And Jin-ho's men, while intimidating, kept their distance. But Hannah couldn't shake the feeling that she was living on borrowed time. On the 4th day, she broke. She pulled out her phone. Jin-ho hadn't taken it, though she suspected he was monitoring it, and sent a text to Maria. "I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I'll explain everything soon." She hesitated. Then added. "I'm safe." Another lie. She hit send before she could change her mind. Maria's phone buzzed. She grabbed it so fast she nearly dropped it. "Hannah, I'm okay. Don't worry about me. I'll explain everything soon. I'm safe." Maria stared at the message, her heart pounding. Hannah had been missing for 4 days. 4 days of Maria calling, texting, filing police reports that went nowhere. 4 days of terror. And now this. A single text. No explanation. No details. Maria's hands shook as she typed back. "Where are you? I've been losing my mind. Please, just tell me where you are." The reply came almost immediately. "I can't. Not yet. Just trust me. Trust." Maria wanted to scream. But instead, she took a screenshot of the conversation and sent it to the private investigator she'd hired. If Hannah wouldn't tell her where she was, Maria would find out herself. Park Dong-wook watched the intercepted text messages with a cold smile. "She's still there," he said. "With Jin-ho." His second-in-command frowned. "I don't understand. Why didn't he kill her?" "Because," Park Dong-wook said, "he's predictable. He thinks he's protecting her. Just like he tried to protect that cleaning woman all those years ago. Miss Grace." "Exactly." Park Dong-wook leaned back in his chair. Jin-ho's weakness has always been his sentimentality. He thinks he's honoring her memory by saving every stray that crosses his path. "So what do we do?" Park Dong-wook's smile widened. "We use it against him." He pulled up another screen. This one showed surveillance footage of a woman, short, curvy, with dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, walking into a coffee shop. "Maria. Find her," Park Dong-wook said. "Bring her to me." Jin-ho found Hannah in the courtyard. She was standing under a cherry tree, one hand on her belly, watching the blossoms fall. The April rain had stopped, leaving everything fresh and new. For a moment, Jin-ho just watched her. She looked peaceful. Despite everything. Despite being trapped in his world. Despite knowing what he was. Then she turned and saw him. "I texted my friend," she said flatly. "Maria. I told her I was okay." Jin-ho's expression didn't change. "I know. You've been monitoring my phone." "Yes." Hannah laughed bitterly. "Of course you have. It's for your safety." "My safety." Hannah's voice rose. "I wouldn't need protecting if you'd just let me leave. You'd be dead within a day. You don't know that." "Yes," Jin-ho said quietly, "I do." He pulled out his own phone and showed her the screen. It was a surveillance photo, grainy but clear enough. It showed Hannah walking down a Seoul street, taken from a high angle. "This was taken 2 days before you came here," Jin-ho said. "You were being followed." Hannah's blood went cold. What? Park Dong-wook, my rival, has been watching you for weeks. He chose you specifically. You were never random. Hannah stared at the photo. At herself, unaware, walking to her next delivery. Why me? She whispered. Because you're vulnerable. Because you're desperate. Because you're. Jin-ho hesitated. Because you're the kind of person I wouldn't kill. Hannah looked up at him. What does that mean? Jin-ho didn't answer. The call came 2 hours later. Jin-ho was in his office when his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered. Yes. Jin-ho. Park Dong-wook's voice was smooth, amused. It's been too long. Jin-ho's hand tightened on the phone. What do you want? I have something that belongs to you. Or rather, something that belongs to your little guest. Jin-ho's blood went cold. What are you talking about? Maria Kim. American. 28 years old. Hannah Dane's best friend. Park Dong-wook's voice turned mocking. Did you really think I wouldn't notice her making noise? Filing police reports. Hiring investigators. If you touch her. You'll what? Park Dong-wook laughed. You're in no position to make threats, Jin-ho. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to bring Hannah Dane to me. In exchange, I'll let Maria go. Simple trade. No. No. Park Dong-wook's voice hardened. Then Maria dies. Slowly. And I'll make sure Hannah knows it was your fault. The line went dead. Jin-ho stood motionless for a long moment. Then he slammed his fist onto the desk hard enough to crack the wood. Maria woke to the smell of cigarette smoke and expensive cologne. Her head throbbed. Her wrists were bound to a metal chair with zip ties that cut into her skin. The room was dimly lit, concrete walls, a single hanging bulb, no windows. A basement. Or a warehouse. Somewhere no one would hear her scream. She tested the restraints. Too tight. Her fingers were already going numb. Footsteps echoed across the concrete. Maria's head snapped up. A man emerged from the shadows. Tall, well-dressed in a tailored suit, with sharp features and eyes that held nothing but cold calculation. He carried himself like someone who was used to being obeyed. Park Dong-wook. Though Maria didn't know his name yet. He pulled up a chair and sat across from her, crossing his legs casually. He took a drag from his cigarette, studying her like she was an interesting insect. You're Maria Kim, he said. Not a question. A statement. Maria's jaw tightened. She said nothing. Hannah Dane's best friend. Park Dong-wook smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. The one who's been making all that noise. Police reports. Private investigators. Social media posts. Heat sked softly. You really should have been more careful. Maria's heart hammered, but she kept her voice steady. Where's Hannah? With Kim Jin-ho. Park Dong-wook's smile widened. Safe and sound. For now. If you hurt her. Hurt her. Park Dong-wook laughed. I don't need to hurt her. Jin-ho's doing that all on his own. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Tell me, Maria. What do you know about Kim Jin-ho? Maria hesitated. Nothing. I don't know anything. Liar. Park Dong-wook's voice hardened. But that's okay. Let me educate you. He stood and began to pace, cigarette smoke trailing behind him. Kim Jin-ho, he said, likes to think of himself as honorable. A man with principles. He doesn't hurt innocents. He doesn't involve civilians. He has rules. Park Dong-wook spat the last word like it was poison. He stopped pacing and turned to face Maria. Do you want to know how Kim Jin-ho built his empire? Maria didn't answer. He built it on the corpses of my family. The words hung in the air, heavy and cold. Park Dong-wook took another drag from his cigarette. 15 years ago, Jin-ho was nobody. An orphan. A street rat clawing his way up through the ranks. My father, his voice tightened. My father ran the organization Jin-ho now controls. And Jin-ho? He was my father's most trusted lieutenant. Maria's stomach twisted. She could sense where this was going. My father treated him like a son, Park Dong-wook continued, his voice low and venomous. Gave him opportunity. Respect. Power. And how did Jin-ho repay him? He crushed the cigarette under his shoe. He betrayed him. Framed him for skimming profits. Turned the other lieutenants against him. And when my father was vulnerable, when he had nowhere left to turn, Park Dong-wook's hands clenched into fists. Jin-ho killed him. Put a bullet in his head and took everything. Maria's breath caught. That's the truth. Park Dong-wook's eyes blazed. Jin-ho didn't just kill my father. He killed my older brother too. Made it look like a gang war. Eliminated anyone who might challenge him. And then, he laughed bitterly. Then he had the audacity to act like he was better than the rest of us. Like he was some kind of noble criminal. He crouched down in front of Maria, his face inches from hers. So when I heard he was protecting some pregnant delivery girl. When I heard he was playing hero. Park Dong-wook's smile was razor-sharp. I knew exactly how to hurt him. Maria's voice shook. Hannah has nothing to do with your vendetta. No, Park Dong-wook agreed. She doesn't. But Jin-ho thinks he's saving her. He thinks he's honoring the memory of that cleaning woman who died for him. Miss Grace. He said the name mockingly. He thinks protecting Hannah makes him a good man. Park Dong-wook stood, brushing off his knees. But here's the truth, Maria. Kim Jin-ho is a killer. A liar. A man who destroys families and then pretends to have honor. And your friend Hannah? He shook his head. She's just another pawn. Another tool. The moment she stops being useful, the moment she becomes a liability. He drew a finger across his throat. He'll dispose of her just like he disposed of everyone else. Maria's hands shook. You're wrong. Hannah said. Hannah's a fool if she trusts him. Park Dong-wook walked toward the door, then paused. But don't worry. You won't have to watch her realize it. Because if Jin-ho doesn't trade her for you. He glanced back over his shoulder. I'll kill you both. The door slammed shut, leaving Maria alone in the darkness. Her breath came in short, panicked gasps. Her mind raced. Was it true? Had Jin-ho really built his empire on betrayal and murder? And if it was true, what did that mean for Hannah? Hannah was reading when Jin-ho entered her room. She looked up, startled by his expression. What's wrong? Your friend, Jin-ho said. Maria. She's been taken. The book fell from Hannah's hands. What? Park Dong-wook has her. He wants to trade. You for her. Hannah's face went white. No. No, no, no. I'm not going to trade you. Then what are you going to do? Hannah's voice rose in panic. She's there because of me. Because I texted her. Because. I'm going to get her back. Hannah stared at him. How? Jin-ho's expression was cold, lethal. The same way I do everything. With force. Park Dong-wook's compound was smaller than Jin-ho's but just as well defended. Jin-ho studied the blueprints, his mind working through scenarios. Entrances. Guard rotations. Weak points. This is suicide, one of his men said quietly. He's expecting us. He'll have double the usual security. I know. Then why? Because I owe her, Jin-ho said flatly. The man hesitated. Miss Grace? Jin-ho didn't answer. Hannah insisted on coming. Absolutely not, Jin-ho said. She's my friend. I'm not sitting here while you. You're 8 months pregnant. You're staying. Like hell I am. They stared at each other. Finally, Jin-ho said, you'll stay in the car. With guards. If anything goes wrong, they'll get you out. Hannah wanted to argue. But she saw the look in his eyes and knew it was the best she'd get. Fine. The attack came at midnight. Spring rain had started again, turning the world soft and dark. Cherry blossoms clung to wet pavement, glowing under streetlights. Jin-ho's team moved with precision. Silent. Deadly. The first guards went down without a sound. Tranquilizer darts, not bullets, Jin-ho didn't want to alert the whole compound. They breached the outer wall. Then the inner courtyard. And then the gunfire started. Park Dong-wook had been ready. Bullets tore through the rain. Jin-ho's men scattered, returning fire. The courtyard erupted into chaos. Jin-ho moved through it like a ghost. Precise. Efficient. Every shot he fired found its mark. He reached the main building. Kicked down the door. Maria was in the basement, tied to a chair, bruised but alive. Who the hell are you? She gasped. A friend of Hannah's. Jin-ho cut her bonds. Can you walk? I think so. Footsteps behind them. Jin-ho spun, gun raised. Park Dong-wook stood in the doorway, smiling. I knew you'd come, he said. Predictable as always, Jin-ho. Let us go. Or what? You'll kill me. Park Dong-wook laughed. You're outnumbered. Outgunned. You're not leaving here alive. Watch me. Jin-ho fired. Park Dong-wook dove aside, and the bullet punched a hole in the wall behind him. His men poured into the room. What followed was brutal. Jin-ho fought like a man possessed. Every movement calculated. Every shot perfect. Maria stayed low, crawling toward the door. And then Jin-ho saw it. Park Dong-wook reaching for a detonator. No. The explosion rocked the building. Hannah heard the blast from 3 blocks away. No, she whispered. No, no, no. Ma'am, we need to leave. Not without them. The guard hesitated. Then his radio crackled. We're coming out. Prepare for extraction. Hannah's breath caught. A moment later, she saw them. Jin-ho, moving fast, supporting Maria. Both alive. Hannah shoved open the car door and stumbled out. Maria. Maria looked up, eyes widening. Hannah. They collided in a fierce hug. Maria was crying. So was Hannah. You idiot, Maria sobbed. You scared me to death. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Jin-ho watched them for a moment. Then he turned to his men. Get them both out of here. Now. What about Park Dong-wook? Jin-ho's expression was cold. He's done. 6 weeks later. Hannah stood in the courtyard, her daughter in her arms. The baby was perfect. Tiny, healthy, with Hannah's eyes and a head full of dark curls. Maria sat nearby, her bruises long since faded. She'd decided to stay in Korea, partly to be near Hannah, partly because Seoul felt like home now. She's beautiful, Maria said softly. She is. Hannah looked down at her daughter, her heart swelling. Behind them, the cherry trees were in full bloom again. April had come around once more, bringing with it the promise of new beginnings. Jin-ho emerged from the house. He was dressed simply today, no suit, just dark clothes. He looked almost normal. Almost. He crossed the courtyard, and Hannah held out the baby. Want to hold her? Jin-ho hesitated. Then, carefully, he took the tiny bundle into his arms. For a moment, he just looked at her. This impossibly small, impossibly fragile life. What's her name? He asked quietly. Hannah smiled. Grace. Jin-ho's breath caught. He looked up at her, something vulnerable flickering in his eyes. Grace, he repeated. Then, softer, she would have liked that. I know. Hannah stepped closer. She would have been proud of you. Jin-ho didn't answer. He just held baby Grace, his expression unreadable. Maria cleared her throat. I'll, give you two some space. She disappeared into the house. Hannah and Jin-ho stood in silence, watching the cherry blossoms fall. You know you can leave, Jin-ho said finally. Park Dong-wook is gone. His organization is scattered. You're safe now. I know. Then why haven't you? Hannah looked up at him. Because this is home now. Jin-ho met her gaze. I'm not a good man, Hannah. I do terrible things. That won't change. I know that too. And you're staying anyway? Yes. Jin-ho studied her for a long moment. Then he said, why? Hannah took Grace back into her arms, cradling her daughter close. Because you saved us. Because you protected us when no one else would. Because. She paused. Because I trust you. And I don't trust easily. Jin-ho was quiet for a long time. Then, almost too soft to hear, neither do I. The cherry blossoms continued to fall, carpeting the ground in pink and white. Somewhere in the distance, the city hummed with life. Hannah looked down at her daughter, then up at Jin-ho. We're going to be okay, she said. Not a question. A statement. Jin-ho's lips quirked into something that might have been a smile. Yes. We are. And for the first time since that night in the rain, Hannah believed it. The end. If this story pulled you in and kept you on the edge of your seat, smash that like button and subscribe for more intense, emotional stories like this one. Drop a comment below telling me what you thought about Hannah's journey. Would you have made the same choice? Share this with someone who loves dramatic, powerful storytelling. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.